Welcome to this first course in our specialization in learning Spanish, and congratulations on taking your first steps towards becoming a Spanish speaker. I'm Robert Blake, professor of Spanish linguistics at UC Davis, and I'll be your guide on this exciting. Hola y bienvenidos! This is the first module about family and friends. In this module, you'll learn to talk about family and friends at a basic level. You'll learn some Spanish pronunciation tips and be introduced to specific grammar rules regarding subject pronouns. You'll also learn how to count from 1 to 10, de uno a 10. And you'll learn how to use the present tense for AR verbs and the very useful verb tener, which means to have or possess. You'll practice with the linking verb ser, to be, and you'll make it agree in person and number with the nouns, as well as make the nouns agree in gender and number with adjectives and with articles. Finally, in the Perspectiva section, you'll listen to Lina, who's from Colombia. She'll talk about her family and her new baby, Lulu. There's lots to do, so let's get to it. Vamos a ello! Welcome to the vocabulary section of Lesson 1. In this first lesson, you will learn the basic words that deal with family and friends, the words you need to engage in everyday conversations. To memorize these new words, you need to make new associations between the sound, the images you will see, the written word, and the English translation. The mind is an incredible association machine. Use the concepts you already have in your head in English that will be stimulated by the pictures to make new associations with the Spanish sounds and the written forms. Second language acquisition research tells us that you need to repeat this process with each word about 10 times. Use the drag and drop exercise to match the correct Spanish word onto the images and then listen to the correct pronunciation. Afterwards, make sure to do the comprehension quiz and make sure you have an understanding of the whole vocabulary. There are many cognates that exist between English and Spanish. These are going to help you, but listen carefully for the changes in pronunciation. Okay, let's get to it. Vamos a ello. Welcome to the grammar section. In this first lesson, you'll review the most important features of Spanish pronunciation and the differences with English. You'll also learn about subject pronouns, for example, I, you, she, he, it, we, they, in combination with the corresponding present tense forms for the AR verbs, which account for close to 80% of the verbs in Spanish. So think about that. Once you learn to conjugate AR verbs, you know how to conjugate 80% of the verbs in the entire language. That's pretty cool, right? You will also practice the verb form tengo, I have. That comes from an irregular ER verb that occurs in many useful expressions relating to family and yourself. You'll be introduced to the concept of gender and number agreement because every noun in Spanish is either masculine or feminine, singular or plural, from a grammatical standpoint, and it has to agree with its articles and adjectives. Finally, by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to count from 1 to 10, de uno a 10. So let's get to it. Vamos a ello. When we speak and use verbs, there's always a point of view for each action. There's always a subject, such as I, you, she, he, it, we, y'all, or they. These are called subject pronouns, and they're classified as either being first, second, or third person, singular or plural. In English, only the third person singular forms, he, she, display what we call gender. Gender markings are much more prevalent in Spanish, as we're going to see right away. So for the first person, in English we say I for the singular form. In Spanish it's yo, which comes from the Latin word ego, yo. But for the plural, we have nosotros for a group of men or a mixed group, and we also have nosotras for a group of women, meaning we. So we have the forms yo and then nosotros, nosotras. For the second person, it's a little bit more complicated because they're informal forms and they're formal forms. So to say you in Spanish, you use the word tú if it's informal. You use the word usted if it's formal. And for the y'all form, you use the form vosotros for a mixed group or men, and you use the form vosotras for a group of women, y'all. This form is especially used in Spain. But most of Latin America uses a formal word, which is ustedes. Now for the third person, you have in the singular he or she, él and ella. For the plural, they, if it's a mixed group or a group of men, ellos, if it's a group of women, ellas. Now be advised, there's a little wrinkle with the usted form and the ustedes form. We've already said that it's the second person, you and you all. But these forms, these words, usted and ustedes, they go with verb forms that are third person. We're going to do lots of practice. All nouns in Spanish are either masculine or feminine, singular or plural. Nouns must agree with their articles and adjectives in gender and number. In the case that a noun is the subject of a verb, it also has to agree with the verb in terms of the number and the person, first, second, or third. Most nouns that end in o are masculine, and those that end in a are feminine. There are a few exceptions, but very, very few. For nouns ending in e, or a consonant, you just have to memorize the gender. There's no way of knowing. But there is a few clues. Noun suffixes such as dad, sion, are feminine. To make the plural form with nouns ending in a vowel, o, a, or e, just add an s. Otherwise, you're going to need to add es to the nouns ending in a consonant. For adjectives that end in the suffix dor, you have to make the plural by adding es for the masculine form and as for the feminine form. Mixed groups are always considered masculine in Spanish. Rosa y Roberto son amigos. Here are some more examples. I'm going to give the singular first and then the plural. Casa bonita, casas bonitas. Año pasado, años pasados. Hombre trabajador, hombres trabajadores. Mujer trabajadora, mujeres trabajadoras. Spanish nouns almost always are accompanied by a definite or an indefinite article, which also agrees in number and gender with the noun that it refers to. So let's look at the definite articles. We have both a masculine and a feminine form, a singular and a plural. So the masculine singular form is el, and the plural form is los. The feminine form is la, and the plural form is las. For the indefinite, we have the singular masculine form un, and the plural form unos. And for the feminine, we have the singular una and the plural unas. Let's look at some examples. La casa bonita, and in the plural, las casas bonitas. El año pasado, and in the plural, los años pasados. And now with the indefinite article, un hombre trabajador, and in the plural, unos hombres trabajadores. And another indefinite article, but this time feminine, una mujer trabajadora, and in the plural, unas mujeres trabajadoras. So keep an eye out for this agreement business. It won't be easy, and it's going to take you a number of years, actually, to do it fluently and without thinking. But remember, nouns always agree in gender and in number, and in some cases, if they're the subject of the sentence, also in person with the verb. A particularly useful verb is tener for possession. But note that it's an irregular ER verb, and you just have to memorize the forms. So let's take a look at them. First person singular, tengo. First person plural, tenemos. Second person singular, tienes. Second person plural, tenéis. Third person singular, tiene. Third person plural, tienen. Let's look at some examples. Tengo una hermana. I have a sister. ¿Tienes hermanas? Do you have sisters? Tiene un hermano. He has, or she has, a brother. Tenemos una casa pequeña. We have a small house. Tenéis unos padres trabajadores. You all have parents who are very hardworking. This verb tener is going to pop up all over the place, especially in Lesson 2 when we start talking about body sensations. So practice it, memorize it, and it will serve you well. The AR verbs are the most frequent ones in Spanish, around 80% of the total number of verbs. The following person and number endings are added to the root in order to form the present tense. So first person, you add o, plural, amos. Second person, as, plural, ais. Third person, a, and third person, plural, an. So now let's put them onto the root of a verb like hablar, to talk. First person, hablo, plural, hablamos. Second person, hablas. Second person, plural, habláis. Third person, habla. Third person, plural, hablan. Here's an example. Hablo inglés y español, pero mis padres solo hablan inglés. I speak English and Spanish, but my parents only speak English. Since AR verbs are so frequent, and the present tense is so important for talking about anything, you're going to want to memorize these endings, and you're going to want to practice with other AR verbs, finding the root and then adding the endings to it. So get to it. Vamos a ello. So let's learn the numbers 1 through 10. Now, unlike English, when you start counting, you use your index finger. But in Spanish, you start with a thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ya saben los números.